Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Lee Spann.
All right, welcome back to the Stream Center, and it is a party. And here today, we got a full house for this week's episode of Run for Fun. Now, of course, we designed this show to help more people understand that running can really bring joy, but you have to do it in the right way. You can't be pushing yourself all the time. You have to sometimes relax, recover, so that then you get back out there strong as ever. So I'm your host, meteorologist Lee Spann at WFLA in Tampa. But I've been running for about 14 years, and I can promise you that I made all the mistakes in those 14 years. So I really hope this show allows you not to have to make the same mistakes that I made. So joining us today for Run for Fun is Amy Cosens. Now, we'll get to her 6.5-year run streak where she hasn't missed a day of running. But today's focus, Amy, is on running through heartbreak and tragedy. Amy, you lost your wonderful husband, Lee, to cancer. So can you walk us through sort of what happened to you in the last 6 years or so?
Yes. So about 3 years ago, my husband, Lee, had been experiencing some lower back pain, went to an urgent care thinking maybe he had a kidney stone. And just to be safe, the urgent care sent him for a CT scan to find the location of the stone. And that day, he was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic kidney cancer.
And no prior symptoms or anything?
Nothing. Regular checkups every year through the VA, regular healthcare, no symptoms, nothing. And boom, March of 2021, stage 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who tell us about Lee, first of all, because you did say he went to the VA. So tell us a little bit about his life.
So Lee was born and raised in northern Michigan and moved down here in 2006. We got together in 2007. And a little bit after that, he joined the Army. He was an MP, a military police officer. He did a year in South Korea, and very shortly after that, a year in Afghanistan.
And you were with him during all of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, during all of that. And within about a month of getting out of the Army in 2012, he was hired on with the Bradenton Police Department, which he absolutely loved.
And was promoted.
Yes, he was. Actually, he was about 6 months post-diagnosis and treatment when he was promoted to sergeant. He was also over their Marine unit. So their boat was his pride and joy. He really loved being a police officer.
And, so when someone has been seemingly healthy, clearly, I mean, the Army, you have to be pretty healthy. Police officers have to be pretty healthy. Yeah. What kind of shock was this for you and your entire family, which, your beautiful young girls are here as well. We have Margaret and Savannah with us this morning.
Yes. I don't even really know how to describe the shock when you hear people say that your life can change in an instant, but I think until it happens to you, you don't realize that it literally can only be 1 second and your whole life is different. So for us that day, we immediately went into fight mode. What can we do? And I'm so thankful that we got another 25 months after that.
Was that a surprise? Like, what was the diagnosis when you unfortunately got it?
We didn't really know. We were never given a very clear timeline. But, your first thought when you hear stage 4 metastatic with pretty distant spread was panic. Our first fear was, do we have weeks left? So again, we had 25 months, and of that, 18 or 19 months, even though he was in treatment, he was still working, and we were just able to go on all sorts of adventures, into the Kentucky Derby, Disney World, fishing. So thankfully, for most of that time, he was healthy enough that we still got to do the things.
And was he as active as you are as far as the running? Was he out there on your runs with you?
Not quite. I did at one point before Savannah was born convince him to do a half marathon.
Okay.
Which he did in Sarasota. He didn't speak to me for a week afterwards, but then he signed up for it the following year.
There you go.
And we actually did the half marathon relay in Sarasota when I was 36 weeks pregnant with Savannah.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So, walk us through then the treatment. So you find out, you travel pretty quickly, right, to get a different kind of treatment.
So we started out with Moffitt and Florida cancer specialists here. But about 8 months after that, we decided to pursue MD Anderson in Houston, Texas, their world-renowned treatment center. And he was only 37 when he was diagnosed. So if there's ever a hospital that has seen patients this young with such a significant diagnosis, we were hopeful that they would have some new innovative options for us.
And how long did you stay in Houston?
Well, we took several trips out. Some of them we flew there in the morning and flew back in the afternoon. Towards the end, we were out there for about 2 weeks. And then we had a couple of shorter trips in between where he would have like scans and things done Friday. And then we'd meet with the doctor maybe Monday morning.
And what did they tell you about kidney cancer? Like how did it manifest? How long had it been happening?
So we were told that it's a pretty slow growing cancer. And based on the timeline, it was determined that it was most likely caused by burn pit exposure when he was in Afghanistan.
Because my mom actually had kidney cancer, and they told her it is something environmental. It's not usually hereditary, which to your young daughters, I'm sure that's what's good to hear. But that means something happened to him.
Yeah. So we we were very lucky. We lost our initial disability claim with the VA, so we were paying for treatment out of pocket. And thankfully, a wonderful organization called NVLSP took up his appeal for us pro bono, and we ended up winning his appeal, which then just protects the girls with health insurance and their college education, and also helped us continue to seek treatment, different treatment options.
And then how did the Bradenton Police Department, help you and him and your family through all of this?
They were phenomenal, bringing meals, presents for the girls, Easter baskets, Christmas presents, school supplies. They did a benefit fundraiser at one point. They were just so helpful. It would have been a much harder road without them.
And so first of all, we do want to thank him for his service, but we also want to thank you for telling this story, because I do feel like, it's easy to be sad and be alone, but it feels like you guys have really been out trying to tell people, like, I'm sad, especially if I follow you on social media. I see it there, I put it at the bottom of the screen, Barefoot Mother Runner. Some of the things that you write to Lee are so personal, and you're putting that out, for the world to see. And I appreciate that, because it's okay to be sad.
Yes. Yeah, I think in our society, we just don't talk about grief. And I've learned that, the hard way in searching for resources. And so many people, it's like once the funeral is over or once the burial is over, it's almost like for a lot of people, it goes away. But for the person who's living it, for myself, for my girls, it's everyday part of our experience. And I kind of, my social media was running focused. And then when this happened, I needed an outlet. And this has become not just a way to share with people, but I've connected with so many people who are fighting cancer or are a caregiver to somebody who's fighting cancer. And it's kind of shown me the power of social media. We hear so much of the negative that can come from social media, but there's such huge positive that can come from it also. Yeah,
and some of these pictures that we're showing, if you're watching this either on YouTube or the live stream, are some of those from your social media. So some of them are, super sweet, and then some of them I didn't pick to show, but you're just lying down saying like, I'm done. I can't do this right now. And that is powerful to say.
Yeah. You can't be on all the time. And, I feel like I heard a saying once that the highlight reel isn't real. Yeah. It's like, so many people share all of the really good things on social media, and that's great. But it's also not realistic for those of us that need to know that, other people are struggling with parenting, or other people had not their best run today, or work was stressful. That's real life for everybody. Everybody has hard things.
Especially when you have a 6.5-year run streak. Some of those runs are not going to be great. But also, parenting is 365 days every year. I mean, and so, so there are not going to be some good days with that as well.
Yeah. Everybody has hard moments, and I just find it to be very powerful to be open and honest about those hard moments.
And yes, and I will say some of your posts, certainly got me misty, but I can imagine that if I were in a similar situation, how connected I would feel. And I'm hoping that you're able to feel that from other people, but also for other people to get that connection from you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, again, I just think it's so powerful to let people see, hey, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This is hard. Because what I don't want is other widows or other veterans who were recently diagnosed to only see, oh, everybody else looks like they're just cruising through this, because that's not reality. Like,
That's what you put on social media.
Yep,
most of the time, right?
Exactly.
And so it's nice to know that it is okay to be not okay,
Yes,
as the saying goes.
Absolutely.
And so you are raising these girls. We'll show them if people are watching. We've got Margaret and Savannah. And what ages are they, and where will they be going? They're going to school next year in a couple of weeks, I guess, next week.
Yes, 2 weeks from yesterday they go back. They are 7 and 9, so they'll be starting 2nd grade and 4th grade.
And I know it's been tough on them, but they are beautiful and happy. And I'm sure that having you as their mom, as a role model, certainly is helpful as well.
Yeah, I'm so proud of them. I can't imagine a harder thing for a child to go through, and they've such grace, resilience, and we all have our hard moments, and in our family we talk about it, and it's okay. It's okay to have hard moments.
Yeah, I mean, because when you ask if they could come, I wasn't sure where they, where they were in their conversations with you and what was going on. So I appreciated you wanting to bring them in.
Absolutely,
because this is a conversation that from 5 to 95 people can benefit from.
Yeah, and this is not just a huge part of my life; it's a huge part of their life, and even bringing them to, like you said, parenting is 365, and now it's just me.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I want them to see, like, these are the things I'm out doing. These are the conversations I'm having, and I think Lee would be proud of us that we're still out here sharing our story, and every day, one day at a time.
Yes, I know he would be, and it's not going to get much easier for you, but it will. But you will get stronger.
Yep.
And I'm sure. And I heard, I saw somewhere that said, I'm tired of being told I'm strong.
Yes.
Sometimes I just want to be weak for a minute, because I'm sure people tell you that all the time. Look how strong you are raising these girls, still running every day, all these things. And you're like, can I just be weak for a moment?
Can I just please fall apart for a second?
And that's okay. That's what, and you let that be known. And I do appreciate that. But you are also a very strong runner. So we want to talk a little bit about how something that you were already doing, that run streak was years before
Yes, it
this.
was.
So what made you start a run streak, and how has that helped as this tragedy and heartbreak has gone on?
So I can actually vividly remember the first day of my run streak. Lee was, a police officer. He was working 12-hour shifts. I'm a teacher, so we were off for winter break. The girls were 9 months and 2 years old. And one day I just said, I have to go for a run, and he's at work. Let's go. And, I had felt like I was kind of losing myself in parenting, and running was something I loved. So I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So we did. And I think it was like a 2-mile double stroller run. And I went again the next day. And then I said, okay, can I do this for 100 days? And here we are, 2,400 days later, and still going.
2,400 days later. And some of them are, you say, I'm assuming you're saying how many miles, because you said your social media was really run based. And so that were you already trying to inspire people to get out there as barefoot mother runner, as a run streak every day?
I think part of it was wanting other people to get out there. The other thing that people don't realize is there's actually a huge run streak community. There are people who have run streaks that are 30 and 40 and 50 years long. And that was one of the first ways I connected with people on social media, whether it was they were doing a 30-day run streak or 100 days, or some people were shooting for a year. So I went for the 100 days and then thought, well, I'll go for a year. And then at the year mark, I thought, well, I'll just keep going until one day I come home and decide, all right, that's enough.
And it hasn't happened yet.
It has not happened yet. No.
Which I would imagine when your life has gone into chaos, this is the one thing that is the same. I mean, runs are different, but putting the shoes on, has that helped? Has that been part of your therapy?
Absolutely. I say that it is the one thing that I do solely for myself every single day. And, some days it's 1 mile, and some days it's 15 miles. Actually, on the 1-year anniversary of Lee's passing, I did 32 miles. And, there's power in that. I thought about that day, and I thought I could sit and be sad all day, or I could go crush this goal that Lee always knew I had. And that's what I did. and it was amazing. And I knew at the end of that 32 miles that he would be so proud of me for still getting out there.
Is still proud of you,
Yes,
right? Is still
absolutely.
proud of, I mean, because 32 miles is no joke either. I mean, that's
It was a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's an all, many hours. And did you have help with that?
I did. I actually had a group of people who I've known for a long time. Lee and I had known this group since we had started dating, and one of them kind of spearheaded it. She organized different people for different sections. So I ended up with company on my run all the way up through the 26-mile mark.
Okay.
Now, I've never run a full marathon.
But you have.
Yep, now I have. So I hit the 26, and the last runner had to leave. So I did my last 6.5 miles on my own. And actually, I couldn't even have planned it better, because it was nice for those 6.5 miles to just, be in my head and thinking, like, if Lee could see me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and knowing that the people had been there for you, had
Yes,
organized this
absolutely.
for you on this day that could have been the saddest day that you've had in a long time, but instead it was a come together. It was, and then it was that time to reflect in the last 6 miles.
Yes.
I mean, because
Absolutely.
when you are that tired, when you've gone for such a long run, your brain does already do some kind of wacky things
Yes.
anyway. So, able to just get in there and alone with your thoughts is important, but I'm sure it was a little scary at the same time.
It was, and the route that I did was actually back and forth over the bridge between Palmetto and Bradenton. So on every loop, I passed the Bradenton Police Department. So it was nice to see his truck there, and some of the guys came out to wave every couple of miles, and it just felt like the right thing to do for that day, the right way to honor him.
And you're still out there.
Yep.
And then even when you travel, so I in the article I wrote in the on our website, I was like, she travels and runs.
Yep.
She grieves and runs. She parents and runs. Like, is it something that every day you wake up and think, how am I going to get this run in? Is that helpful?
Yes, it is for me. It is definitely something, even when I'm traveling, even when we're having a hard day or a busy day, I know that will be my priority for the day. And sometimes if we have a 5 a.m. flight, that means I'm on the treadmill at 3:30. And sometimes I'm on the treadmill at 11 p.m. if we've had a crazy day. So I don't necessarily start each day with a time plan. I just start each day knowing at some point today I will do 1 mile.
Yes. And that is, I guess you can call it the stipulation for a run streak, is that it at least has to be 1 mile.
Yes.
Which I'm sure sometimes feels like it's too much for today.
Absolutely,
but
it does. But I can tell you that in the 2,407 days, I have never once finished a run and regretted it.
Yep.
Every single time I have finished it, okay, I did it. I always say that the first time I finish a run and regret it or feel worse than when I started, I'll be done.
Yep, the streak will be over,
Yep.
right? And the good thing is that even the bad runs, and if you've listened to any of our Run for Fun podcast, it's interesting that we talk a lot about bad runs because you do still feel better after it. The run itself can be tough or hot or, your body's not feeling it. But when you're done, you're like, I did it. I did it. And now I feel better.
Yep. I've not had a single run that I've ended and said, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. And you're right. It can be 100 degrees and I'm running the bridge at noon, but I still finish and go, okay, that's done for the day.
And now I wanted to show. So every now and then you get some company out there.
Yes.
So this was Run Streak Day 2000.
Yes.
So it was a while. It was a little ways back,
Yes,
but you're got your cohorts here.
Yes, that actually that was a huge day for us because it was also Father's Day, and that was I think about 2 months right after Lee had passed, and before he transferred to hospice house, he said he made me promise that I would make it to Streak Day 2000. And that if I wanted to stop after that, I could. So that was an interesting run for us because I honestly finished it and wondered, will I get up and run tomorrow? And of course I did.
Yeah. Because then it was 2001.
Yes.
And then it was 2002. And it does give you that constant.
It does. Yep, it does. And the girls have gotten significantly faster on their bikes. So the result of that is I've gotten much faster at running. So, I have them as my trainers now because they're not quite at the age where I can leave them home alone to run. So if I want to run outside, they're coming with me on bikes or scooters. And otherwise, I'm on the treadmill.
And getting them out there is also important too, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's, it's a family affair at that point for sure. Yeah. And do you, when you go back to the classroom here just a little bit, will you, how do you plan out your days then?
That's a little bit harder.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, I've been thinking about this school year and what that's going to look like. I imagine a lot of days I'll run before work, but then the days that they have aerial practice or swim practice, I plan to run while they're at practice. So that kind of gives me that freedom for an hour. I know they're in a safe place and I can go quick, get over the bridge and back.
Yes. And so do you do races?
I do.
I mean, I know you said that you did them at half marathon, but I mean, you're already technically running an ultra. So.
Yes. So obviously I don't do as many races as I used to, because now to do races, I have to find childcare. But before Lee was diagnosed and even after, I did a lot of local races. One year, we've tried on several trips that we've planned to find races. So just recently, the girls and I flew to Cleveland for the eclipse, and we did a race while we were up there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep. A few years ago, I did the Boston 10K because we happened to be traveling at the time. And, we've really figured out as a family kind of how to incorporate the running.
Yeah. And because I do think that one of the other podcasts I mentioned, I'm like, I never thought 14 years ago that running would be my personality trait. Yeah. That would be something that, I mean, as someone who never exercised as a kid or in my young adult life, that I would not only be hosting a show called Run for Fun, and that this would be, but once it becomes part of who you are, it does take precedence sometimes. Absolutely. It's like, I can do this and run. I can do that and run.
Yep. I had to laugh. This was years ago. We were on the other coast of Florida for Thanksgiving, and there was a turkey trot, but we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning. And Lee said, "Oh man, I can't believe I married into a family that gets up at 4:30 on Thanksgiving to run." But there we were, and he and the girls were at the finish line, and he was my biggest supporter. And, after we had the girls, I always looked forward just to knowing like they're at the end, like good race, bad race, it didn't matter. They were always there waiting for me at the end. And that's one of the parts of racing that I love, is that finish line.
The finish line that's what was the whole thing we're working toward, right? But also because that's where your family is. Yep. That's where your friends are. That's where the crowd is. That is where you celebrate.
Yes.
And there's always a lot to celebrate, especially when you've just finished that race.
Yeah.
What's coming? What's next for the Cosen family?
So let's see. The girls and I are actually going to be flying to New York City at the end of September, and we're going to be doing the Tunnel to Towers 5K together.
All right. So show them. So tell us a little.
Excited.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
So the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is flying us up the last weekend in September, along with my sister. And the four of us will toe the line for the Tunnel to Towers 5K, which I am so excited about. Excited to run in New York City, excited to support a great organization, and mostly really excited for the girls to be there and just experience, a huge race in a big city with what I've heard, a great finish line party.
And what does that organization, where does the money go toward?
So Tunnel to Towers organization pays off the mortgages of fallen veterans and fallen law enforcement officers. So after Lee passed away, they actually paid off the mortgage on our house, so that wasn't something financially that I had to be concerned about.
Oh, that is a wonderful cause for sure. And then you get to turn around and give back to that. So your registration for that goes, that is helping someone who you have a kinship with, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes. But yeah, I have found that there are so many organizations for veterans, for law enforcement, really for anybody who is struggling with cancer. There's so much support out there. And I'm hoping at some point I can find my voice to start advocating for those causes, so that other people in my position, other families know, like, you're not alone in this. There are other people who are walking the same road. It's a terrible road, but it's one you're never alone on.
And I think that you're already starting that between your social media.
I hope so.
Coming here, and telling this, because it's a personal story that you're trying to then say, okay, my personal story is also your personal story, and that helps the next person, and then they can help the next person. And I'm sure that's what I'm sure you will meet at Tunnels to Tower. I'm sure you will meet other people, who are in the next step from where you are. Right. You can see where things move forward to.
Yeah, and that's powerful too. We're about 15 months in, And when I meet somebody who's 2 years in, I think to myself, okay, like I can get there. So then when I meet somebody who's 6 months in, I can say to them, hey, I've been where you are, and here's where I am now, and you'll get there.
Yeah.
You may not get there quickly, but you'll get there.
And
at a time.
Yes. And I appreciate you coming in. I really hope that you and your family have a great school year,
Yes, thank
and
you.
that you continue to down this path of growth, and we appreciate what of course the service that Lee gave to our country and then to our community at the Bradenton Police Department. So
Yes, he definitely loved it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Amy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lee. We appreciate it.